Today's farmers are seeing an increasing need for soil inputs to achieve desired crop yields. Small and medium-scale farms are doing whatever possible to keep up with the agricultural giants. One method available for farms to get ahead is biological farming. Well, biological farming works hand in hand with nature. It balances your soil to produce healthy, pest and disease-resistant crops while reducing the use of chemicals. When fed to livestock, these crops lead to healthy and productive animals. Think of it as a system, not a product. And it's a system that's practical, sustainable, and profitable. Our farmer today has put biological farming into practice using varied types of crops, including chia seeds, sunflower, millet, sorghum, and many more. Now, are you curious to see how this has come about? Then let's go to the farm. Hello and welcome to yet another exciting episode of Kilimo na Biashara. And as you know, this is a show that brings you different types of farming methods and all emerging trends in the agribusiness world. And speaking of emerging trends, today we want to see one of the emerging trends whereby experts are coming up with solutions on how to help farmers to improve their farming methods, especially how to tender for the soil. So today we are in Biashara. We are at Andermatt, and they're doing a lot of research in regards to farming. So just to get from the horse's mouth, let's go find our farmer today, or perhaps our expert today, who will give us more details in regards to this. So shall you join me in the farm? Let's go. Hamish, hello.
How are you?
I'm fine, thank you. Nice to meet you.
You too.
And thank you for inviting us here.
Karibu sana Andermatt, Kenya, and welcome to Biashara on a beautiful day.
Thank you so much, Hamish. And I see your crops are really thriving. What's the secret?
What we're looking at here in front of you, you've got the small-scale farming in the foreground, and then behind us is the cereal crops. And what we're doing is bringing nature to intensive farming.
And how do you do it?
So we do with a number of different products, and we start with the soil first. That's our primary focus as Andermatt, is to start with the foundation. And the foundation in farming is the soil. So how do we make the soil alive and a living soil to get the very best from the crops?
What is normally the basics? As much as, yes, the basic is starting from the soil, how do you do it? What are the things that are supposed to be done to the soil in order to get these amazing crops?
So the whole trick here is really to understand nature, and by enhancing the soil life, by bringing the carbon, the humics, which would be your organic matter, or in our case, humates, to bring the carbon back into the soil to create the food for the soil, which is the carbon. And then that gives a food source for the microbes which are living within the soil, and also to improve the structure of the soil as well.
Is it a model farm for all the crops whereby you're doing this for these crops? Is it?
What we're looking at, Linda, here is to really look at all the key sectors in Kenya and understand where we as Andermatt can support farmers, whether you're a small-scale farmer all the way up to large-scale intensive farming.
Speaking of the partnership that you have with the farmers, how does it go about? How do you go about it?
We're starting to build traction And that's the magic of you guys being here today, is to be able to tell the story to the farmers and unlock the secrets of nature. How can we work together with farmers to get the best value from their soil and upwards? So we start with the foundation, grow good healthy roots and build a healthier crop on top. And then we have other solutions to bring to the farmers in terms of biological, natural solutions to control pest and disease. But ultimately, it's about plant health, soil health. As they say, an apple a day keeps the doctor away. That's the same with plants. If we have a healthy plant, it's less likely to get sick and less likely to have challenges with pests.
With the biological and nature secrets, like you said, what should a farmer really look out for? What are the key things that when you introduce them to this, these are the first things that you introduce them to?
Primary thing we always say to farmers, just like with people, by nurturing your baby and taking good care of the baby has the best chance to grow into a productive adult. And it's no different with a crop. So we start with the seed, with the mbegu, to make sure the seed is healthy, so have a good quality seed, and then we treat the seed with Andermatt products.
Looking at this project, allow me to take you back just a little bit. And Andermatt is doing a lot in regards to agribusiness. And just tell me, how did this idea conceptualize?
Where we are today is really rediscovering best of farming from yesteryears and bringing it up to speed and creating a hybrid of chemistry, conventional ways, but marrying that together with biological ways, so we get a hybrid and the best of both ways.
So when did it start? Because I see the crops are really doing so well. And how has the journey been?
So what we did here, Linda, was to replicate the season of farming in Kenya. So we started, as farmers do, we planted in April. And so you can see the sunflowers behind us, obviously a much quicker, faster crop. They're into flower, and other crops are slower. But generally we're coming into the harvesting stage now. So what we're looking here, Linda, is to replicate the seasons in Kenya. So the farmers in Kenya can see we're actually following the same process as they are. So this is a true story of what we can bring to bear to farmers in Kenya.
You have several crops here, and I'm just wondering, I feel like there's a story to each of the crops.
Ultimately what we're doing here, Linda, is really to showcase to all farmers. Whether you're a sunflower farmer, whether you're a sukuma farmer, tomato farmer or a cereal farmer, we have solutions for all. And they're biological solutions. And the biological solutions are having different values for different crops. In principle, they're all working well to enhance the soil life and the root health, but we're seeing better results on some crops with different treatments, and that's what we're doing here is a trial and testing centre so that we can take the very best to the farmers in terms of biological solutions. And to your point on global security, food security, it's about how we can use natural solutions which can be more affordable and more accessible to the farmer and enable him to increase his yield of production and his quality of production for all, whether you're a small-scale farmer or an intensive cereal farmer.
So once the farmer has adopted this method, how long will it take for them to experience the changes happening in the soil?
You'll get an immediate impact. Obviously it gets better and better season by season, but because we're putting the microbes onto the seed and we're putting the humates into the soil, they get that immediate impact that very season. And what we've done here, Linda, is to replicate the season, the weather, but also the soil. So we're not changing anything. And as you see, you'll go around, we have control beds, which is kawaida, the normal practice, and then we have the treatments. So this is what the farmer can expect on their farm, and it's real. And as you say, a picture doesn't lie, this is the truth. The farmers can see the material impact of embracing Mother Nature and the results that they too can benefit if they copy what we're doing here at Andermatt.
This is a viable project according to me, how I see it. And I'm wondering now, do you see this as one of the projects that will elevate food security in the country amid the growth in population now?
Absolutely, Linda. This is not just a Kenyan discussion. This is a global discussion. We've crossed the boundary last year of 8 billion people. By 2050, we gravitate towards 10 billion people. That's a 2 billion increase. And a lot of that increase will be taking place on the African continent. So we as African farmers have to really up the game and produce enough food to sustain that population increase. But it's not just the population increase, Linda, it's also the consumerism. there's going to be more people and more people in Africa consuming more goods and more food. So we've really got to raise our productivity to the tune of 70% globally to meet the needs, but we have to do it in a more sustainable way.
I know that your motto at Andermatt is prevention is better than cure. How has it been for you in terms of adopting that? Because many people will wait until the crops are affected, then they put the pest and everything, the pesticides.
It's about health. So if you have a healthy start in life, as I was saying earlier, you're less likely to succumb to pests and diseases later. And it's, as I said, there's a great similarity between crops and human health. So if you have healthy nutrition, you're less likely to have challenges with diseases and pests later on. So our focus with farmers is get it right from the beginning. As I said, mother's milk. If you give the crops just like a baby, you give the baby crops mother's milk, which is the microbes, the seed treatment, you're most likely to get some of the giants that you're seeing today. You can see the sunflowers behind us treated with these crops. They're happy. They're flowering and they're reflecting the results using natural inputs. And you can compare the difference between the control, you can see is more erratic and shorter crops, smaller flowers, smaller seed yield. And then we can see here in the foreground, this has been treated with the Andermatt seed mix, and you can see the fantastic results here.
This is quite impressive. I really like it, and you're doing an amazing job. Now, this is the small scale, the crops that can be grown in small scale. And I'm curious to see the other side where they are cereals.
Great, let's go and have a look.
Okay, let's go.
So Linda, you can see the clear difference between what we can see here on the foreground, which is the kawaida, this is the control, and behind us we can see the various microbial treatments and the impact that it's having. If you look at the head size between the treatment and the control. The difference between the two here, Linda, this one on the left is from the control here without the microbial seed treatment of all the beneficial biologicals, and this is from the crops here on the right, which have been treated with the various microbes on the seed. And you can see how it translates to the yield difference between the control and the microbes. This is the smaller ear from the crop which hasn't been treated, the control. And on this side, we've got the larger ear, which is coming from the crop that's been treated with the biological treatments, the fungi and the bacteria. And you can see what nature is doing, it's transforming the yield from that ear to this ear. There's a big difference. So
with the treatments, where does it begin? From the seeds, from the soil? So
with seed crop, it all starts with the seed. So we apply the Rhizovital, which is a bacterial liquid. We put it into the seed mixer, and the Eco-Tea is a powder, a fungi powder, and we put that into the hopper. But for a small-scale farmer who's got seed crops, if it's like maize seed, he can mix the two together and just make sure it's on the actual seed itself. With a large-scale cereal farmer, they'll do the seed mixing with the Rhizovital liquid before going into the hopper, and then the Eco-Tea powder goes into the hopper. So it's fairly straightforward, and what's great about it is it's cost-effective. It's treating the actual seed itself as opposed to the mass of the soil. So by putting the microbes and bacteria and fungi on the seed itself, that's efficient. It's only coating the seed, and then the crop grows with the microbes, the fungi and the bacteria through their life, and they get the benefits of those beneficial organisms.
Looking at the Kenyan landscape, especially when it comes to agriculture and the common crops that we have here, which ones are really viable for this project?
No, it's for all crops. All crops need healthy roots and healthy microbial life. So a challenge is a lot of the soils globally and in Kenya, our soils are tired. They're not so much soil, they're more dirt. So by putting the microbes on the seed, we are basically bringing the life back into the crop. And you can see clearly from today the results that this is having on the crops. Nature's force is incredible, and it needs to have that microbial life to have the impact. But what we're doing is to do it in an affordable way, Linda, by putting it onto the plug or the seed. It's much more cost efficient, and we protect the plant from the beginning. So as the roots grow out, they're coated and protected with that fungi and bacteria. It's like a farmer's insurance policy at the end of the day, because these microbes are not only stimulating the crop, they're also protecting the crop from key pathogens. So, you know, if you have a challenge on tomatoes with fusarium, it'll prevent the disease on tomatoes and the fusarium. In cereals, if you have challenges, you know, with sclerotinia or other rusts, etc., this basically makes the crops a lot more resistant to those challenges. So root health is the most important aspect. So it's for all farmers, Linda, at the end of the day.
The farmers here share the seeds, especially for sorghum, millets and maize when it comes to the planting season. So for a farmer who has gotten that, do you have to treat it again if you get it for a farmer from a farmer who had treated it?
By treating it every time, you're ensuring you have a good load of those beneficial microbes. So it's not a one-off treatment, you treat the seed every season.
Wheat is one of the crops that is really grown in large scale, and I can imagine a farmer who's propagating the seeds. So do you partner with them?
Yeah, so what you see in the foreground here is obviously wheat. We're working with propagators to be treating their plants in the nursery, inoculating the plugs and seedlings in the beginning. It's good for the propagator as well, because that improves their take rate, improves the quality of the seedling that they're going to give to the farmer. And it's a bonus, because when the propagator gives the farmer those seeds, they already come charged with the beneficial organisms.
And I've noticed there's a lot of insects here. They're helping with the production of these crops.
Yeah, because we're growing in a sustainable way. Because the crops are healthy, there's less need for intervention with pesticides, so we're relying more on natural solutions here, and that's inviting not only having a rich soil life, but also a rich ecosystem on the top. And therefore you can see the bees and the butterflies are living in harmony with the crops. But also the beneficials, as you and I were talking about earlier, we've got a large population of ladybirds in here which are feeding on any of the aphids which are coming into the crops. So what we're doing, Linda, is basically inviting the ecosystem into the commercial farming arena.
I'm just curious, along the way, what are some of the discoveries that you've made, especially given that most of the crops here are high value? Talk of wheat and Chia and many others. What are some of the discoveries that you've discovered with these crops?
Every day is a school day for us here, so what we're looking at is the key crops which are growing in Kenya, both on small scale and also on large scale, and then seeing how our biological crops are products are relevant to commercial and small scale farmers.
Being a model farm, someone would think you would have things like drip irrigation, because I'm wondering, you have so many crops here and they are not under irrigation. Tell me about it.
What we're doing is replicating what's actually happening on the farm. You know, a cereal farmer doesn't have drip lines. You know, yes, drip lines are starting to come more into tomato farming, but for small scale farmers in general, also they don't have drip lines. So what we're doing here is to replicate what is exactly going on the farm, so the solutions we're providing are fair solutions. And so what we're proposing to the farmer is practical. If we were feeding here with drip lines, that wouldn't be giving the right story. So it's about saying to the farmer, this is what you can achieve by embracing natural solutions.
So just looking at the difference that you were telling me earlier on, aside from the performance that we can see, what are other differences that a farmer will explore or experience, especially when they've controlled it and the uncontrolled?
Yeah, so what we can see is, I mean, obviously it translates to the top, so you can see, if I take a stem from here, and you can see a stem from here, you'll see that you basically got, they're basically larger stems, so, you know, it's a thicker, heavier stem, supporting a larger ear, so you can see the difference between the two. And then that translates into the yield increase for the farmer. Yeah. So I'm not going to give a specific yield increase, but ultimately
almost 50%.
the picture tells the story. You can see the impact is there for the seeing. Yeah.
So I see other crops that are performing so well there. Perhaps we can go and check them out.
Absolutely. Let's go and have a look.
Especially the Chia.
Absolutely. Let's go and have a look.
Okay, let's go. I'm sure by now you're wondering what this is. This is Chia. This is Chia, yeah? I'm sure most of you actually consume it in your health teas and your water when you're in the gym, but this is how it is. I've never actually known that this is grown in Kenya. We consume it so much. Tell us briefly about it.
Chia has become a well-established health food globally, and it's a very new crop in Kenya, so not many people growing it. But obviously with using the sort of biological products, you can see the impact that we're having with not just the Chia, but all the crops.
It's actually the mother of the insects that you were talking about.
Yeah, you can see not only good for people, but it's also good for the nature. You can see here the multitude of different types of insects, the bees and the butterflies. So it's also good for the environment in terms of if you're a beekeeper, a great crop to keep alongside your canola, for example.
So from here, that was quite insightful. So we go to sorghum now?
Yep, sorghum.
Okay. So what's the difference here? What's it with the sorghum?
So here we can see the real impact of the microbial treatment. You can see here what it's doing to the crops is giving us really large shoots, which then transform into very big heads, which will then give us much bigger yield, Linda.
So the seed had been treated?
Basically by treating the seed itself, we're creating the microbes and therefore generating a living soil in proximity to the seed. And as the crop grows, the roots grow, and you'll then see a proliferation and increase of the microbes around the plant, which then translates into these types of yields we can see here.
This is quite insightful. I've learned so much. But now, what's the difference between the fungal and the bacterial one? What's the major differences?
So the bacterial, you could say, is your close proximity agent. He lives on the root, on the biofilm, helping nutrient uptake, but also protecting any pathogen impact of certain diseases. And the fungi is growing out of the roots. So that also, the fungi is also protecting against key pathogens, key diseases, but the fungi is also growing out into roots as an extension of the roots. So you have the roots and then the fungi. So you're getting more root mass per se, which is fantastic during the drought period, during the dry period as well. So in a good year, it optimizes uptake, but in a drought year, it really will help be the difference between a farmer getting a crop or not getting a crop.
Wow, that is really impressive, because most of the farmers are actually complaining when it gets to season, drought season, it gets really hard to get good yield. So this is one of the alternatives.
Yeah, this will make a material impact in terms of yield, because it optimizes nutrient uptake. But in a tough year when we don't have rain, this can be, as I say, the difference between a farmer getting a crop or not getting a crop.
And that's how we end it.
Thank you very much.
So much.
Thank you for your time.
And we end it at weaponizing nature.
That's right.
I truly love this because I'm part of the future of agriculture. How exciting is that? You know, this particular technology is quite different, and it's meant for you as a farmer. And also if you're an aspiring farmer, so you can actually visit under Martin Naivasha and get to learn more about this technology. Depending on the crop that you want to plant, we've shown you if you're a small-scale farmer, and if you're a large-scale farmer, this is the place for you. You have to learn more about what they offer here. So thank you so much for staying with us until the end of the show. My name is Linda Koskei. See you again next time, same time.